Hello and welcome to ChinnyVision. This time, waving goodbye to Commodore 64 tapes. Unless you were lucky or rich, back in the day you played your Commodore 64 games from cassette. It was slow and unreliable and a little bit annoying, although not as bad as people make out. You generally got used to it, and if you had a good setup, then actually it could be fairly reliable, although there'll always be one or two games that could be problematic. These days, over 30 years on, those cassette tapes have degraded and people don't have as much patience. People are more generally used to the instant loading offered by emulators. So people came up with SD card solutions for the Commodore 64 and other 8-bit micros that allow you to plug in a unit and load in instantly from an SD card. The SD2IEC from the future was 8-bit is one such device. It's incredibly small. It connects into your user port and your disk drive port. It's not much bigger than it's a little bit bigger than an SD card, as you can see. And there's the connectors there. It's actually started to look like a 1541 drive, a very, very small 1541 drive, and that's the size in relation to a C64. You simply pop your SD card pre-prepared into the unit, clicks in, and you've got 3 buttons on the top, and it plugs in the back, and it's all very convenient and very nice. The cost starts at about £40 for the standard model, rising up to about £46 if you want one made out of original Commodore 64 plastic, because the future was 8-bit, does grind down old broken C64s and turn them into cases. He only does it when they're completely broken and the cases are already cracked. So don't worry, he's not trashing good Commodore 64s. This is the black model we've got here, which looks very nice indeed, very snazzy, and 2 of the 3 buttons do light up. I've got it here against probably its major competitor, the 1541 Ultimate. Mine cost me about £130, £140. The 1541 Ultimate, the differences between the 2 units, well, the 1541 is a full 1541 drive emulator with lots of extra bells and whistles built in, including action replay, including speed loading, including SID emulation, and also with an extra cable, the ability to load tape images and load and save from tapes. So very, very nice, but incredibly expensive. For 95% of people, including people who just want to play games, the SD2IEC is absolutely perfect. The 1541 Ultimate is more of a hacker's thing. If you're very hardcore and you need all those extra features, then that is probably more for you. Both units have 3 buttons and LEDs on them. Slightly prefer the 1541 Ultimate in terms of the button layouts because of the extra features the unit has, including the action replay, which you can trigger from the buttons. But again, it's a lot more money for what you're getting, so you need to think carefully about that. The proof of the pudding is in the eating, so here's the SD2IEC next to my Commodore 64. Apologies for the dodgy camera work, but I'm having to do this handheld because Chinny Towers is very packed at the moment. And just for the sake of it, there's a burning rubber cartridge just to give you a size comparison, if you know what size a burning rubber cartridge is for the Amstrad. Booting up the C64. Going to load up the menu, so it's load FB8. And type in run, and the menu loads up. Won't be instant because any disk drive interface that plugs in to the C64 is going via the serial connector on the back, due to Commodore choosing to do their disk drives, connect the disk drives via serial link, rather than something faster like everyone else did. So you've got a menu system. This is a SD card image the Future was 8-bit provides, so you can go in and pick a game. You can make up your own images if you want, although I strongly suggest you start with the disk image provided by download by the Future was 8-bit. So on C, so let's load a game beginning with C, and they're all on here. There are a few odd characters in here because of file name limitations on the firmware on the SD2IEC, so some of the long file names have funny characters in them, but you can always work out what you need. So this is Chase HQ. That's a D64 file, so I'm going to load that in. And press enter. Now we've got to wait a little bit. It will take exactly the same amount of time as a 1541 drive would have taken. Well, it might be. I haven't. Well, in theory, it should. I haven't actually timed them back to back because I've sold my 1541 to a man in Poland who could repair broken ones because my one was broken, and I never used it. Right, so it's still loading, and the old jokes about how long Commodore 64 games take to load apply here. You can, of course, because the cartridge slot is free, add an Epix fast loader cartridge. And we can buy an original one, or I believe possibly the Future Was 8-bit also sells those as well. Although, you can probably just wait. It's the answer. It's still quicker than loading from tape. He says, hoping it's going to take load in fairly soon. Come on, Commodore, via your slow serial link. This is an inherent problem with the C64. It's nothing to do with the SD2IEC. It is just Commodore and their implementations. Right, we've got the loader up. Let's get past this. Just want to see if this game loads, just to prove it all works from a game randomly chosen. Well, I say randomly chosen. It's Chase HQ on the C64, so it's not going to look randomly chosen, but I just kind of scan around and pick the first big name title I could see, and I've not loaded this up before. Always got to find a key to get out of the loaders. It's one hand, I quite like the loaders on C64. On other times, I think they're quite irritating because they just slow things down, and you have to work out which key to press to get out. Right, here's the trainer. This is all you need. You don't need a loader. You just need a trainer. So I just need to get into the game. There we go. All loaded up. Chase HQ on the C64, all loaded up perfectly. But Chinny, what about multi-disc games, I hear you cry? Well, let's try Creatures 2, which comes on 2 floppies. Procedure for this is a little bit different. What you do is you select the first disc image, you quit to basic, you type in the right thing. I've typed in the wrong thing there. And we need to swap discs, providing the file structure there is set up correctly, which it will be if you've got the Future Was 8 bits disc structure, SD card image rather. What you do is we will press a button on the unit to change disc. Unlike an HXC on a Spectrum or Amstrad, you don't have an LCD display telling you which disc you're on. You just have 2 buttons, so you just have to press it once to one of the buttons goes forward and one of the buttons goes back. So you want to go skip forward 1 disc image, you just press the button closest to you, and you want to go back, you press the middle button. You'll see in a minute. And then what you do, press the button, and there you go. We are now loading. So we're on to the second disc image, and we're happily loading. Put the real I've just put the C64 up in the corner there so you can see the screen versus the camera image, although they should be pretty much in sync. And it all should load in. The green light there is illuminated, so you know something's going on. And there it pops out when it's finished. So again, that indicates activity. And Creatures 2 is happily loaded up and completely intact, and having tested it out earlier, it seems to work perfectly. So that's a quick run through of the SD2IEC. Is it worth purchasing? Well, yes it is, because if you don't have an SD card solution for your C64, you're completely restricted to loading up original tapes. With the SD2IEC, you can just download games online. In fact, you download the image that the Future Was 8-bit provides, and you've instantly got nearly every C64 game you'd ever want. And if it's not on there, you can download it and add it to it. And all for between £40 and £45, which seems like an absolute bargain, especially if you're living outside the UK, because the value of the pound at the moment is pretty poor. For standard users like me and anyone else who just really wants to play games on their C64, the SD2IEC represents great value for money, and it really is the only thing you'll ever need. For the power users, you have to ask yourself, do you need all the features that the 1541 Ultimate offers, especially at the huge price differential between the two units? For Commodore 64 owners who just want to play games, it's an absolute no-brainer. The SD2IEC is the number one choice. It'll do everything the casual user will need. It will load in all your games, and that's pretty much all you want to need. The SD2IEC for games players is the best value for money and the absolute number one choice.